North Korea and South Korea getting together. Earnings are fantastic, and Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Daily Update. And just to show you how dedicated I am, this is take 3. But here we are, and of course, we see the meeting now between North Korea and South Korea. And of course, we're now seeing that there may be some fruit coming out of this. And with President Trump going to meet with Kim Jong-un in the next couple of months, probably, hopefully this will be the end of something. And of course, one of the best jobs a president's ever done, and possibly bringing some nations together. You can like him or hate him, but I think you got to respect what's going on here. Again, that's just something we have to look at. And again, whether you're a Trump hater or not, you can't hate what's going on in North Korea, South Korea right now. In the meantime, the earnings were, again, spectacular. But again, one of the big things we look for and what we want to understand is in the earnings, are they spectacular? And what does that mean for the market? I think that's something that we need to understand about the whole thing. Is the market spectacular? And I think the markets are overdone. I think that we're in a bubble. Now, again, it doesn't mean that the bubble is going to pop today. Doesn't mean it's going to pop tomorrow. It doesn't mean it's going to pop in a year. But eventually, it will come to fruition that the markets will pop because they're far advanced as to where they should be based on the current numbers. Do you think that we're going to continue to see 16, 17, 18 times earnings, especially with higher interest rates happening in here? I mean, the 10-year was above 3%, came back below it, and we're right near at 3%. Now, again, longer term, higher interest rates are actually a bullish thing. We did survive as an economy with interest rates in the 10s. We did have mortgages that used to be over 10%. All right. So again, at the end of the day, it is actually good for the economy that interest rates can rise and that the Fed can get the heck out of the way, because they don't do it. They don't do the economy any good. They help a few and they help the markets, but they don't generally help the economy. And that is something that I wish we could finally see. But of course, you are seeing that in the revolution that I predicted many, many moons ago, that there was going to be another revolution in this country, and you're seeing it right now with the cryptocurrencies. That is the sign of a revolution. That is an active effort to end the Federal Reserve, which, God bless America, that would be one of the best things that could ever happen, because they've gotten far away from their mandate and for what they were supposed to do, and gotten into a whole bunch of other things. And of course, they always end up screwing up the overall economy when they're done, when it's said and done, because of course, you cannot put the economy on a theory. It's got to act in real time. And the Fed doesn't know how to act in real time. But they will tell us when this bubble finally pops 10 years from now, 10 years from that date, they'll tell you, oh, that was a bubble. Well, we already know it's a bubble. But as we said, earnings are spectacular. Amazon really ripped the ball out of the park. And of course, they've got one big advantage to everybody. Not only are they the number one retailer in the world, but they're also the number one cloud storage server. And of course, we know the money that's made there. Of course, kind of like anything technology-wise, cell phones, things like that, once you get the structure built, it's really all profit. So again, are they too big? Are they creating too much of a monopoly? I mean, again, I'm a free market guy, so I'm not really against what they're doing. I feel bad for all the small businesses that they're crushing in their wake. But I think the monopolies that we should be worried about are the monopolies like of Comcast and of AT&T and this merger, because one of the issues that I see is where I live, I can only get one. So I'm being forced to go to a T1 line because of the lack of capability and the crap that Comcast delivers. All right. I mean, they go down about 3 times a week. So I'm being forced, and I have no competition to go to. So they don't have any incentive to make it better for me. So that creates a bigger problem for me. And that's one of the things that I'm really upset about in these markets, is the lack of true and free markets. Because when you don't have a true competition, same as in the healthcare, what do we think is going to happen with healthcare? All right, I had to be taken to the hospital by ambulance a couple of weeks ago. I just got the bill, $1,100 for a 2-mile ambulance trip. Think about that for a minute. We need to get the healthcare situation taken care of. And again, I'm not blaming Obamacare. I don't really care. What I'm blaming is I'm blaming the laws that restrict interstate or intrastate commerce with insurance companies. I'm saying that has to change so that we can bring in some competition and actually have a real choice. Because right now you don't have a real choice. Another thing that you don't have a real choice in. Right? And those are issues and problems that continue to fester in these markets. All right. The other things we start to continue to worry about is the massive amounts of debt. All right. Again, we talk about this almost every week. It just gets worse. When you look at the debt, okay, we have a debt crisis here. And it's going to get worse. And if interest rates go up, which they're going up, okay, we've said it on this show since they were 2%, that interest rates are going higher. The higher the interest rates go, the more that the borrower is going to have to pay, including the United States of America trying to service our debt. This is a debt crisis. And to add to the debt crisis of auto loans at ridiculous record highs, which are going to default. I mean, imagine taking a 10-year loan on your car now, but auto loans are going to default. Student loans are going to default. Credit card loans are going to default. This is all places that people can get easy credit because they make it easy for you, because all of those guys know that lend that money, they're giving it out at basically usury rates. So you're not getting 3 and 4% loans on those things. You're paying usury numbers. It's the same as the peer-to-peer lenders that offer you that cheap rate to get you in, but they don't let you in at that rate. What happens is you end up saying, well, I need the money. So you borrow from your credit card, you borrow from a peer-to-peer, you borrow for a car, whatever it happens to be, that bomb is going to blow up. That's a debt bomb, and that is going to be a major factor at some point. Because this country right now is running on empty. Right? It's like my gas tank at E. All right? So we've got a position here right now that people are borrowing, all right, and they can't pay it back. Why can't they pay it back? Because we don't have good jobs. All right? I can listen to all the good job talk we have. I don't see it. I'm thrilled that people got bonuses. I'm thrilled that we have companies that are making more money. But we need to create better jobs. Right? Not just the companies making more money and not just the bonuses, but we need to create, again, a competitive force of people that can fight for those jobs and get jobs that actually pay more than the minimum wage or just slightly over minimum wage. This is another problem of the new system, the new setup that we have, where we're much more of a service-oriented. We needed back to get those manufacturing jobs to keep the high-paid jobs in play. Because, again, tradesmen, they make a good living. Okay, carpenters, contractors, welders, all those guys, plumbers, they all make a good living, all right? But we need more of them. We need to create more of those jobs because not everybody's going to be a code writer. Not everybody's going to be a doctor or whatever it happens to be. We have to bring those jobs back to this country, all right? And because until we can get the next generation in play where they will be code writers, and that will be the norm. This was not the norm, and we're having a major revolution here, but now it's not the industrial revolution, it's the tech revolution. And there's a lot of people who don't understand it. And unfortunately, tech is not as easy to teach as is industrial stuff. But at the end of the day, it will work itself out. It always does. But we do need to, in the meantime, we need to get better jobs. Now, one of the ways to do that would be to go build that infrastructure, build that wall. Rebuild America, the roads and bridges. I mean, if you always wonder why we always prosper after recognized wars, is because of all the rebuilding that has to take place. Well, this country needs to be rebuilt, and if you put it out there and you privatize it, and we can get people working, and we can get America back to work and doing all those projects, and that would get you through that time of the people that are not functional in the tech world like me. I mean, if I had to go get a job tomorrow, I don't know where I'd go. I mean, where am I going to go work? At McDonald's? Okay, I mean, I would work there if I had to. But what I'm saying is that obviously $10, $11, $12 an hour isn't going to cut it. All right. And of course, if you listen to the up and coming election talk, where you've got the Bernie Sanders with the one giving away free money and the other, I forget the other guy's name, but it doesn't really matter because I'd like to forget it. But, guaranteed high wages. Well, where's it going to come from? Even Finland's giving up on it and they've got the money. So again, it becomes a much bigger story and a much bigger problem. And to tie into this, and this was my point, I kind of lost it for a minute, but Freddie Mac is now giving away mortgages again for 3% down or less, no doc loans. What do we think that's going to create? Did we just not go through that? Is this a new economy Do we have something new? Is this time really different? I mean, come on. Is this a joke? But again, this is the problem when you let the Fed bail everybody out. Okay, because they don't bail out you and me. If you go bankrupt, they don't bail you. They don't come to your house and write your money. They say screw you. But of course, if the banks, so the banks and the people that are involved with the money can do that, because all they're really doing is they're printing money in a different form. So again, I think it's an interesting story, and I think it's a lot of issues. But as we look at what is going on, and we had the GDP last week, and of course it missed a little bit, and everyone wants to say, well, it was the weather. It was the weather. Did the weather change? Are we having global warming? I thought we were in global warming. And now why would we have bad weather? But again, in all seriousness, we always have the weather. Winter is always worse. So why are we having over expectations? I mean, I don't believe that we can ever get to the growth numbers that they're promising anyways, because again, we don't produce anything. We're a service country. So if we don't produce, it's going to be hard to get our true GDP. Again, as we use the example, a meal at a restaurant goes to GDP just like building something. But the meal, you eat it and you excrete it, it's over. So again, there's a lot of things here about that don't make a lot of sense, and to me, really, I find irritating. But of course, you gotta love the pundits want to keep tripping up the market. In the meantime, after all the good earnings and after all the good news, the market is still on a downtrend. Okay. Now, again, it doesn't mean that we're going down yet. It just means that we're not going up very fast because you continue to trend lower. So out of all the good earnings out there, Amazon rallying $150 on Thursday after earnings, after Microsoft getting tanked and then rallying all the way back to become profitable on the day, and all the other good news, we can't break the downtrend. So what does that really mean? It really means that the markets are very much overvalued. In fact, David Tepper from Appaloosa, who was an ex-Goldman Sachs guy, has said, in his opinion, the tops are in of the market. Now, here's a guy that had it right from the beginning in 2008 when all this mess started to come. He said, buy. And of course, it turned him from a multimillionaire into a billionaire because he understood it. And I think he's giving you the message right now. And if you listen to Jeffrey Gundlach and some of the others that are truly not trying to sell their book of business, but actually trying to give you a legitimate opinion, I think that you can see that we're probably at the top. Now, that would bring up the question, when is the best time to invest? Well, really, if you're a true investor and want to take full advantage of compounding on the markets, then you just always invest. If it's $50 a month, $200 a month, whatever it is, you buy highs and buy lows, but you always invest money that is not going to come, that you're not going to need tomorrow. That's a very important state and fact that you have to understand. You invest money that you're not going to need. Okay, that's the same as if you buy gold. If you buy gold, which is fine, I have no problem with buying gold either. If you buy gold, you're buying it because you know you're not going to have to sell it. If you know you might need that money, then you don't want to invest it. And that's what a lot of Americans are doing right now, because their checking accounts have the highest balances they've had in years because they're afraid to spend money, which is why spending, although we get these numbers, is not as what it used to be, because people are afraid because there aren't jobs available. Now we'll see Friday jobs, but there are not jobs available that are good. People aren't making the money they were making. I mean, we had that big 8 cents an hour raise last time. So all these factors create a much bigger problem. But everybody wants to turn their back, kick the can down the road, and let these lobbyists and everybody else tell you how good everything is. They would rather spend more time talking about the trade wars and the tariffs than they would taking care of what's supposed to be going on here. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and we'll be back right after the break with more of Bubba's Bottom Line. Everybody go to highschoolinvesting.com. Check out the website and what we're doing. We're trying to help educate our youth so that we can get away from some of the problems that we talk about every week here. And we donate this program to schools throughout the country. Right now, we're in 450 schools, but we'd like to get into more. But I run out of capital to continue to try to finance this. If you'd like to help us out, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading. That's patreon.com/Bubba Trading. And your money will go directly to helping the high school kids and helping to put financial literacy back in schools like it should be, and it never has been before. So we're trying to educate our youth and educate America. In the meantime, don't forget to catch the Bubba Show every day at 4 to 5 Eastern at LibertyTalk.fm, the only station you'll need, 24-hour day programming. But get the Bubba Show 4 to 5 Eastern at LibertyTalk.fm. And now back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz with you. And of course, we look at the markets from last week, and what do we see? well, we saw the markets lower on the week slightly. The Nasdaq was slightly higher. The rest was slightly lower. Again, nothing to be panicked about, which is why we saw the VIX fall apart a little bit. But again, the inability to pierce through resistance and go higher should be indicating a little bit of a problem. All right, as we look around the board, we have the 10-year notes over 3%, and then just barely got below 3%, but that's pretty natural. You figure it's going to have a little bit of trade around there, but that's part one of our black swan events is the high interest rates. Now, we do believe that high interest rates over time are bullish, but in the short time, they're going to be bearish. The U.S. dollar, which we had been churning around since from 88 to 91 for months, we feel that the dollar is the part two of the black swan. It did finally broke out and actually ran almost to 92. We look for a little bit of a pullback down to 91 to some support before it again takes off. We think the dollar is broken out. In fact, we are predicting 95 is the next stop, and then we predict par by the end of the year, which is dollar for dollar, which will put some pressure on the worldwide economy. Why? Because again, one of the reasons the Fed and the central banks around the world are trying to keep the dollar weaker is simply to keep interest rates artificially low through dollars. All right, that's the formula. Okay, again, just real quickly, if the euro currency is worth $1.25 to $1, then when I'm borrowing at 4%, I'm actually borrowing less because I'm getting an extra quarter on all of my money. So I'm really only paying for that. Instead of paying 4, I'm paying 3 1/4. So it's always a little bit of a difference. So that will change, and that's why we see the dollar and interest rates as the black swan event. It doesn't always have to be a geopolitical event, but there will be a lot of loan failures. There is a debt bomb, so that should create even bigger problems. As we take a look to oil, oil looks like it's peaked. Again, one of the things you have to remember about oil, and this is, if you go back to July of 2014, June, July 2014, which is the same period we're in now, 4 years ago, if you look at the formation, you will see almost the identical formation. June oil is the most expensive on the board all the way out going 3 years. Right? Now, that is not the right formation. That is called backwardation. Right? All that means is that we're being driven up by a little bit of fear here. And of course, I think President Trump nailed it when he said that OPEC is crooked. Okay, that's as simple as I can put it. Between Saudi Arabia and OPEC and everybody else out there, they need oil prices higher. They want to keep glomming that money from us. So that is a problem. Now, again, this could be another issue into the general economy because now when you're paying for gas, I just paid for gas $3.10 a gallon. I mean, so my gas bill just went when I was paying $2.10. So my cost is 50%. Now, fortunately, I don't drive that much, so I'm not that concerned about it. But people that drive for a living, they're now taking a pay cut because of the cost of fuel. All right. So we think oil is done. We think it's going much lower now. I know there's been some big calls for 70. We are on the other side of that trade. We think it's going down. Gold could come down to some great support and an oversold condition. Got a natural bounce on Friday. In fact, I wrote for Kitco, which I do every day, about gold, and I think that the bounce was natural. I would think that you're going to see what's going to happen around 1330, 1340, and that will determine if we're going to break to the downside. I think my opinion here, now again, I'm not taking a trade on it here right now, but I think before this move is said and done, there's going to be one more break to the downside before we can actually happily buy in. But when we do buy, again, as a trade, I would trade gold. I did buy gold on Friday for just a trade, and I will buy gold again on a dip just for a trade. But again, I do think that there's probably some issues here to be dealt with, and I still like the trade of long silver, short gold in an equal dollar amount ratio. I think that's going to work out extremely well. I think that's something that we look for. And then if we look in the agricultural space, as we've said on CNBC Asia, as we've been saying for about 6 months, grains are a buy. Grains are a buy. Step in and get them because that's where the alt money is going to go. And I think you're already seeing that. Look at what's happening to corn. Corn is near contract highs. Wheat is near contract highs, as is soybeans. Now, corn is right now the strongest, but overall, wheat has still been the strongest. But in the meantime, these have rallied dramatically from their lows. I mean, corn's, let's say, $4. Let's say the low was $3.30. So you've got almost a 25% rally here, and I think they go higher. That's the beauty of it. I think you're going to see more money flow in here. I think you're going to see much higher prices going forward. And I believe that that's the case in the meat as well. I think you saw the flush bottom in cattle a couple of weeks ago when there was that tariff talk. And again, I don't think the tariff talk or the trade wars are going to have any effect here. I believe that you had a golden buying opportunity when the banks were forced into liquidation and when you were having issues and you had all that fear that spooked the markets, took us down under $1 into fat cattle or live cattle, and boom, here we are. I figured live cattle has got a chance to go to, it's got a chance to go higher than this, but our next target is 110, 111 in June. I think it does go higher. And feeders look great as well. They're both trying to break out. Now the difference on Friday was live cattle was a little bit at an overbought condition where feeders still had some room to run, but they both look like they're trying to break out of that pattern and move their way higher. Hogs are obviously the one concern, but if you look at hogs and you compare them to gold and just a chart look, you'll see that we just really pierced the top end and been down 6 out of the last 7 days, checking the bottom end. I think this is the bottom. I would be willing to step in here, in which I will, and look to be a buyer. I think that we go higher here. I think that hogs have a big move in front of them, and I think that the selling is over. If we just remember that China owns one of the biggest hog producers, which is an American company, Smithfield. So again, I think that brings in the whole situation where we're looking to see where this money is going to flow, and I think that what's going to happen is the money's going to flow out of equities and flow into agricultural products as it always has done. I don't think the stronger dollar is going to have any effect on it whatsoever. I think that the stronger dollar has been already priced into most of them. The only effect that I see the stronger dollar having on is potentially gold and potentially crude oil. But I don't think it has a much of an effect on anything else. So I think that we look for continued prices to move higher, okay? But I do think that, as we've talked earlier, the markets are well ahead of the growth that we're seeing. I mean, we have some great growth. I'm not taking away what's going on, but I do think that there is an over-exaggeration, which is very common when you look at markets. Markets anticipate. Did you ever watch what happens to options volatility when there's an announcement coming out? It explodes. Why? Because everybody wants to anticipate. So everybody wants to be in first, and they basically pay any price, and of course then they're wrong, and the options collapse. It happens all the time. This is not a new story. Markets price in, and they're forward pricing 6 to 8 months of time. Well, as we get closer and we see that maybe the numbers aren't quite as good, that's where you start to see the sell-off. So you have to remember that, especially in today's world, okay? Again, we don't have, today, something happens today, you know about it in 10 seconds. 30 years ago, you didn't know about it so fast. So that's something that you have to look at. That has changed the dynamics and how fast markets can react to news. But at the end of the day, we have jobs coming out Friday. I don't expect anything great. And I think that, again, it's not what the jobs are. It's the wage growth and it's the pay that we're going to be looking at, and the manufacturing construction jobs. That would be the more important things to look at here. I think that's going to be an issue. But again, I don't see the great growth yet. I'm hoping that we get it. I think that you've got, the president is pro-business, and I think that that's all great. And I think we can look for some good things going forward. But at the end of the day, the markets are overpriced right here. They are in balloon territory. They are in bubble territory because you just cannot sustain expecting what these earnings are going to be. And again, don't forget one other thing is many of these companies do this intentionally. They underpromise on earnings and they overdeliver. But a lot of the forward messages have not been very bullish and very exciting. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for one more break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and we're going to come back with my opinion, my take after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. Everybody, again, I just want to remind you all that check out highschoolinvesting.com. Really a great site, and it's something that we give to high schools around the country to help, and we have 450 high schools right now looking to get to more, but need some help in raising some funds. So if you'd like to help out, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading. That's patreon.com/Bubba Trading. And don't forget to catch the Bubba Show every day from 4 to 5 Eastern at LibertyTalk.fm, your number one news source for all types of radio, 24 hours a day. Let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and my take. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line, and here's my take. And I mentioned this in the opening. I think that President Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize, but unfortunately, with all the haters out there and with everybody out there trying to destroy America, I think that there's obviously much bigger problems on whether or not he should win the Nobel Peace Prize. But I think he did a great job with the North Korea-South Korea deal. I think he's going to do a great job if he goes out and meets with Kim Jong-un. But all being said, you still got, even though that the Russia charges, a lot of them have been cleared, you still have a private group being led up by George Soros that have raised millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, still trying to dig up the dirt on President Donald Trump. And I think you have to ask yourself, They've been trying to dig up dirt for 4 years. How deep is the dirt buried? Okay, I don't think there is a lot more dirt on the president than we already know. And I don't think it has any effect on the job that he's doing. I think that if you look at from an economic and a fundamental standing, nobody's done a better job in the last 50 years as president as Donald Trump. Let's go back to Reagan. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter what side it is. You would think that at some point we would all want to try to make America better and get out of this malaise and get out of the crap that we're in right now. But you have these people that have too much money and not enough time to create disruption. And why are they so against Donald Trump? Because most of them are involved with some sort of a lobbyist or office that the work that President Trump is doing is cutting into their pocket and cutting into their work, and they don't like it. All right. So you've got George Soros, and again, I urge you to go read some history back on George Soros from when he was a kid and some of the things he did, and let's see what you think about that genius. Okay. But in the meantime, they have a private study now trying to get a private group together to continue to find dirt on the president to try to impeach him or to get him out of office. And my question is, why not take all that negative effort and put it together and try to make America great and try to put the country to work again instead of working against it? These are people that you'd never want to get in an airplane with, because if they didn't like the pilot, they'd rather have the airplane go down than have the airplane make it, because they're against them. And I think this is one of the biggest problems we're having right now is that people just don't get it, that we should be all for one. All right, we should be trying to make America better. Whether you like the president or you don't like the president, it isn't the person, it is the office of. And from my point of view, now I voted for him, full disclosure, but I think that he's doing a tremendous job at trying to move America forward. And I think this is something that a lot of the haters, but more importantly, a lot of the lobbyists and a lot of the people that benefit so wealthily from what the government has done in the past are very unhappy about. I think that it's about them not getting their ability to steal more money. That's what I think. That's my opinion. All right. I'm very disappointed in all of these that continue to fight, because we're now 2 years in. Worst case scenario, if he's really that bad and you don't like him, you vote him out in 2 years. But yet these people would rather spend more time and more money that could help the homeless, that could help people around, instead of they would rather throw it in a garbage can and create these riots, protests, and continue to look for information that could create problems for Donald Trump, which I think, again, is a joke. I think it's a sad state, and these people need something else to play with, because they're taking their bat and ball and going home, and they want to get their way, and they want to get the president impeached or out. And again, I say, let's make America great again. Let's put these efforts, instead of creating all this negative energy and taking back the country 200 years into hatred and opposite sides of the world, why don't we take all that effort and make it so we can make everything better for everybody? That's my take. That's my opinion. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you back on Monday with Bubba's Bottom Line. Bubba's Daily Update, and we'll see you next week with Bubba's Bottom Line. Have a great weekend. As always, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time. Bubba's Bottom Line.